Welcome to the 10-minute series of videos related to competency-based programs. My name is Madeline Bazergi from the Office of Academic Development at Dawson College, and I'm pleased to present the third part of a three-part series on program design. Program design from Z to A, from competency to program matrix. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the three-step process presented in the previous videos. There's another video related to the exit profile, describing what it is, the process we use for building it, and its values to program. In this presentation, we'll explain how the program meta-competencies serve as a starting point for crafting an exit profile. We will then describe what a thorough analysis of a competency consists of. And for those who are interested, how to build a Logigram and from there generate a program matrix. Keep in mind that this is one of a few approaches to designing a program. The design example I will use is from the ministerial technical program called Music and Song Techniques. The resulting design presented will be far from complete or final. The purpose of the example is to demonstrate the thinking and design process rather than the actual final design. The exit profile, competency logigram, and matrix will be in draft form. The design process requires many rounds of consultations, iterations, and then approvals. Since PED counselors may or may not be experts in music, we always work with a writing team of faculty who teach or will teach in the program. To write an exit profile, after analyzing the ministerial devis, we group competencies by themes. This allows us to write meta-competency statements for both general and specific education. We receive input from stakeholders such as the program committee, students, graduates, advisors, and an external advisory group. Using the meta-competency statements, the graduate profile, and stakeholder input, we craft statements reflecting the integration of learning. So what are those meta-competencies from which we build our exit profile? Meta-competencies express overarching, broad, and complex skills, and they subsume or require the exercise of more than one competency at a time. For example, in this music program, these four competencies can be grouped under a performance and production cluster, and one or more meta-statements written to express the broad and complex skills required of the graduate. This music program was divided into 6 logical groups of competencies: musical theory and genres, musical transcription, instrument techniques, showmanship and musicality, performance and production, and career development. The 4 competencies that were grouped under performance and production could result in a meta-competency: produce, perform in, and promote one's own show and programming for a variety of audiences and environments. Notice that this meta-competency subsumes the competencies related to playing as a soloist or an accompanist. You'll see later on that the exit profile may flesh out this meta-competency further. Similarly, 2 competencies were grouped under music transcription. One attempt at writing a meta-competency can result in transcribe and transpose popular music from both an audio or written source using a variety of media. General education is an integral part of every student's program. Every devis describes broad general education learning objectives and goals that can be considered as meta-competencies and be used to inspire the exit profile. The general and specific education meta-competencies, as well as the ministerial common competencies, or in the case of Dawson College, the graduate profile, form the basic ingredients for a program's exit profile. But keep in mind that the exit profile's learning outcomes are greater than the sum of these parts, as they reflect the integration of learning. Here is a first draft of the exit profile for the professional music program designed specifically for this presentation. If you pause the video, you can read the learning outcome statements and notice that they reflect the meta-competencies or the integration of meta-competencies with the graduate profile. Let me give you some examples. At the end of the program, students should be able to, number one, play various styles of 20th century music and song produced as entertainment for a mass market. Or number 9, at the end of the program, students should be able to take measures to maintain physical health and mental well-being during rehearsals, home practice, and on stage. Notice the specificity and measurability of the learning outcomes. Also, notice that if a program decided that different art forms are important for building a musician's artistic sensibility, outcome number 17 will inspire the creation of courses that will contribute to this program. Number 17, at the end of the program, students should be able to articulate a coherent artist statement that includes a rationale for the influence of different art forms and musical works throughout history on one's own artistic sensibility. The exit profile expresses the results expected when students exercise program competencies, but they also guide program development. The exit profile will most likely go through several iterations as it is presented to stakeholders for feedback. Statements may be combined, redundant statements removed, and new information may inspire the crafting of other learning outcomes. Once we have a common vision of what we expect graduates to be able to do, the second step in the design process is to thoroughly analyze competencies using a competency analysis document to translate the ministerial objectives and standards to learning outcomes and potential assessments, as well as identifying the knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes the students need to develop in order to exercise those competencies. The competency logigram and competency analysis documents should be aligned. Let me give you an example of a competency analysis document, but first, a quick recall. Competencies are formulated as objectives and standards. There are different types of competencies, and I will explain these in another video. The way a competency is described by its elements will influence the progression of learning activities in the program and the logigram. The statement of the competency and the context in which it is exercised refers to its exercise in the occupation. In most pre-university programs, the context is always related to the pursuit of studies, and so you will not find a section labeled Achievement Context. In this example, the context implies that graduates will not be composing their own work, but using pre-existing work in Western music, popular, classical, and jazz. There's another program for music composition. The elements of the competency can be interpreted as broad objectives that can also be considered as learning objectives. The performance criteria are the standard by which you judge the achievement of those objectives. Both the elements and the performance criteria serve to develop the learning and assessment activities. Although several assessments may judge the attaining of individual elements or objectives, the achievement of this competency is best determined by an assessment which allows a student to exercise the competency integrally. In other words, to use form, melody, rhythm, and harmony. Close inspection of the performance criteria reveals that to achieve this competency, students should be able to read, write, and perform music. The final assessment should evaluate this. The competency is one of the general or foundational competencies of the program and will most likely be exercised concurrently with many other competencies. A grid of competencies is presented in every technical program de vie, showing the relationship among the competencies. It shows the general or foundational competencies that deal with work-related activities common to various tasks or situations, and how they are exercised or reinvested in the exercise of tasks directly related to the occupation, in this case, performing music in different environments or contexts. The competency analysis documents serve as a tool for analyzing, discussing, and agreeing on how to develop a particular competency. The CAD reflects the faculty's interpretation of the competency and translates the general objectives described by the elements of the competency and the performance criteria to learning outcomes. The learning outcomes should reflect what a student should be able to do if they've mastered or achieved the competency, keeping in mind the entry level to the occupation, or in the case of pre-U programs, for the pursuit of university studies. The program faculty may decide to also write intermediate and intro-level learning outcomes if the competency will be developed over several courses. The CAD also describes potential assessment strategies to be used. These are suggestions for the rest of the faculty to consider, but it may also be agreed upon by the entire program that these are the type of assessments that best assess the achievement of the competency. The competency analysis document also documents the types of learning activities as well as the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to be developed. Notice that we use a backward design approach when designing a program. We start with learning outcomes or the end results that we expect and work backwards to identify how we will ensure that the student has met those outcomes and what knowledge, skills, and attitudes we need to develop. Once all the CADs are complete, redundancies may be removed, the alignment with the competency checked, and the document refined. In fact, these documents may be refined throughout the entire process of revising the program once that program does start to emerge. There are 3 videos on how to write good learning outcomes. I strongly encourage you to consult these before attempting to complete a competency analysis document. This CAD may or may not include ties to other competencies. Those relationships are usually detailed in course design documents. That would be the next step after a program design. In the past, we called these frameworks, and they have been rebranded as design documents. When creating competency frameworks and designing programs, it is important to pay attention to the taxonomic level of each competency. We see here that this competency is at the application level of Bloom's taxonomy. Close inspection of the performance criteria reveals that students will be applying music theory by reading, writing, and playing music. Although tempting to teach composition, students are not expected to compose symphonies. That would be at the creation level of Bloom's taxonomy. Once the competencies have been analyzed and the frameworks completed, a logigram can be produced. In this graphic, the logical groups of competencies are color-coded and described in the last row. The program terms are represented by the columns and the competencies are in the rows. A first attempt is made to map out the development of each competency over time and refined as discussions in the departments proceed. Since most competencies are not exercised in isolation, they are not developed in isolation either, especially in career programs. Links between the competencies will be shown on this graphic. For example, perform musical works is developed together with elements of musical language, and it leverages instrumental skills, the student's artistic sensibility, and the ability to perform an improvisation in a popular music context. But in order to improvise in a pop music context, students should have developed instrumental versatility and their artistic sensibility, as well as mastered the pop music idiom and have perfected their instrument or vocal technique. Moreover, a great improviser can include elements of music that they've learned from other great musicians and musical works. In order to appreciate the characteristics of musical works, one has to reflect on one's own artistic sensibility, and perhaps these two competencies can be tied together. Once complete, the courses and the and prerequisites will flow naturally from the links. Using this initial competency development plan, the program designers now group competencies into courses. The development of the program matrix. The matrix describes the course competency relationships, the number of contact and homework hours, as well as the credits for each course, respecting the totals indicated in the ministerial devis. A program matrix may be generated from the competency logigram by grouping competencies to be developed together into courses. The following slide illustrates the thinking process. For example, in Term 1, a music theory course will develop two competencies: use elements of musical language and perfect instrumental or vocal techniques. They will be developed at the introductory level. Students will learn the theory and apply it directly to their instrument. These two competencies will continue to be developed together through Terms 2, 3, and 4. In Term 3, Music Theory 3 will also master the popular music idiom at the introductory level. We still haven't decided what we will do with Music Theory 4. To give students more practice time, because practice makes perfect, courses called Instrument 1 to 3 will be offered concurrently with the music theory courses. In fact, they will become co-requisites. Similarly, transcribe musical material and adapt to new technologies can be developed together in an ear training course where students listen to music and notate what they hear using a music transcription software. They may also have exercises where they notate existing musical written scores using the same software. A history of music course will help students develop their artistic sensibility by exploring various musical styles and genres throughout history. And the links shown previously between performed musical works and other competencies are not lost in the planning, as a performance course will be added to the first and all terms of the program. Now, the faculty may have decided that to develop one's artistic sensibility, it is important for students to explore other art forms and have decided to include two courses from disciplines other than music: a history of art course in the second term and a history of dance course in the third. We've called these contributing disciplines in the past, but now we like to refer to them as the program disciplines to really embody a program approach to developing a program. The three specific education program disciplines shown here must act together to develop this competency. The competency framework will be the reference for developing this competency. Eventually, in an improvisation course, this competency to develop artistic sensibility will be evaluated in a music discipline course. It will be important that the last course in the series will be able to evaluate the competency integrally. A program matrix is a two-dimensional representation of the course competency relationships. The matrix identifies the competencies in the columns and the courses that develop them in the rows. In the columns, it shows how a competency is developed over time, when it is introduced, when it is reinforced, and when it is considered achieved or mastered. When a competency is considered achieved in a term, it will be assessed at the mastery level in that term. Horizontally, the matrix also shows what competencies are to be developed by each course. For example, in a course called Percussion Techniques, 4 competencies are developed, 3 at the reinforcement level and 1 at the introductory level. The matrix also indicates the number of credits per course, as well as the theory, lab, and homework hours per week for a 15-week semester. This is called the ponderation. Once the program matrix is approved at the Board of Governors, faculty begin work on developing their courses. In competency-based programs, your course forms part of a bigger picture. It is important to understand how your course fits in the overall program to design a better learning experience for the students. With the ministerial devis, the competency analysis documents, a competency logigram if it exists, the program matrix and course design documents, and the support of the program coordinator and department chairpersons and the Office of Academic Development, teachers will be well equipped to develop their courses as part of a program using a program approach. Well, thank you for your attention and stay tuned for the next presentation.